Hi, on behalf of ASA and iATN, I'd like to welcome you to the Educator think tank panel. I'm Rick Escalambre from Skyline College in San Bruno, California, and I'd like to take a minute and have each panelist introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Jeff Curtis, Bellingham Technical College, been an instructor for 20 years in the heavy-duty program.
Hi, my name is Paul Danner. I am an instructor at Rosedale Technical Institute in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I've been there 14 years. I have a mobile diagnostic business, and then I have my own YouTube channel too, Scanner Danner. You guys would know me by on there. So.
Hi, my name is Tim Dwyer. I'm an automotive instructor at Oklahoma State University Institute of Technology. Been teaching around 11 years now, and a former shop owner. I had a shop in Tulsa, Oklahoma for around 25 years.
Hi, my name is Bill Lieb. I teach at the Career Technology Center at Fort Osage. We teach secondary high school students, NATEF accredited program. I'm representing the program where we have 2 instructors, about 65 students every year that we have in our program. Have good placement. We average about 85% placement out of our program. Very good participation in skills and for AAA.
Hi, Doug Mueller, Concord, California. I have an auto repair shop called Auto Electric and Fuel, and I run a private school called Tech Help. Been in the business for a little over 50 years. Got about 30,000 hours of education as far as automotive is concerned, and glad to be here.
Okay. Well, we'd like to welcome all of you, and we'd like to welcome people on the webcast to what we hope will be the start or continuation of one that was started with Pete, and we can continue on here in the future because we've got some big issues ahead. Some of you already submitted questions. I'm going to be moderating the panel. We're going to have the questions up here for each of the panelists. We want to let you know that this is an interactive session, so please, as you have questions, raise your hand. I'll be coming around with a microphone so that you can ask your questions, and we really want to spur the dialogue, so don't be shy. Okay? Let me get down here, and Brad, do you want to go ahead and... Okay, first question is for Jeff. Getting students to go deeper into their learning is tough. They seem to only want to do the bare minimum. What can we do to get them to want to know more? And a person says, I'm not a boring teacher. I work hard to make my lessons fun and interesting. It is like they don't have the ability to dig deeper.
Yeah, those are good. That's a great question, Rick, that many of us face in our programs is how do we engage young folks and keep them interested. I've found that it does take a lot of work, and it's different than what you might think. I get down with the students on a personal level, but we also work hard at what we do. I don't give them easy answers to questions. I turn questions back around into questions back to them, and I make them do the research. So if a student might come to me for a simple question on something on their personal car, that they haven't done the most basics of looking at all data or Mitchell, finding out what the flat rate time is at least on this project that they want to do. So to try to get them more interested in their own future, just to get them involved in that is it's tough, and it takes some engagement. I have other ways too that we can go into a little later, but maybe the next question. Huh?
Okay, Brad. Bill, how do we recruit students when the industry won't step up the pay scale?
Another great question. I guess when we start out with this, recruiting students to go into the career field out of our program, that requires a very active advisory committee, one that's taken us about 8 years to establish, and having our advisory committee interact with our students, meet our students, job shadow activities, some internship opportunities. We struggle with that a little bit with time allotted in our class programs. But then on the front end, we've created a recruitment committee in our building, and then more specifically in our automotive program, where we reach all the way down to the 4th grade with tours. 8th grade summer school. I've taught summer school program for 6 years, where we actually get young kids today, boys and girls alike, working on cars, lifting cars, jacking cars, oil changes, and what have you. They don't get to practice that at home like they used to, maybe when we were growing up. So bringing that back has been a very popular activity for students to kind of see the field, feel a little bit of how professional it is, the safety requirements that it takes to work on a car today, and start establishing that groundwork. And then they start realizing that, hey, maybe we need to work on reading, maybe we need to work on math. And there's a science to fixing cars. And maybe that starts to help bridge that into their program of study, which we hear that in education a lot today. So there's a lot of ways on the front end recruitment, and then on the back end, we as in secondary level, like post-secondary, we're held accountable for placement and test scores. Those are the two big things that measure we as instructors, let alone no matter how great of activities we can produce in our labs. So really, having technology in our programs, exciting things to keep students engaged, and knowing that they're going to find that out in the industry as well. So hopefully we can touch
I'd like to do a follow-up on that with Doug. Doug, you're our industry person and an industry trainer. What's your perspective on getting the industry to step up?
Well, two things, Rick, as far as I'm concerned. Number one, we have to have good technicians in order to be able to step up the pay scale. And of course, that's one of the reasons that we're all here and talking about this, is that we're trying to develop better technicians and better ways to keep the technicians trained in the current facilities that we have. The second thing is that you know, I tend to think that if you tend to look at what is available for young folks out there, two things. One, if you look at the standard individual going to college, takes them about 5 years to earn a BA. And at that point, they may or may not be ready for about a $35,000 job if they can find one. If you apply that same 5 years to our industry, okay, a guy could be making a heck of a lot more money than that. So it's not really that bad a deal, okay? And if they develop their skills and stay trained, okay, the sky's the limit, okay? I've made a very good living, okay? And it's capable and it's available for those who want to put in the effort.
Before we go on, I'll make sure everybody knows, maybe as we end each question, we can ask if any of you have a question at that point in time. I don't want you to sit back and hold them to the end. Anything before we go on to the third question? Because it's going to be your dialogue that's really going to help us keep this moving. Okay? Go ahead, Brad. Okay, Tim, best practice for assessment and accountability in the lab shop. Industry support is hit or miss. ASA and Educator organizations should hear about, need to promote. Even the public should hear about quality and relevance to student success and future careers.
You're saying, okay, you're asking how are we assessing it out in the,
I think
how
that's
are we assessing, are we doing a good job?
I think the assessment, how you can really do the lab aspect of it.
Oh.
Because that's kind of a moving target.
Yeah.
So what do you do? And maybe we get some input from other people is how you handle lab situation, because I'm sure that's a very difficult situation for all of us.
Well, I think the administration would like you to have some kind of rubric and matrix of I guess, tasks that you have, that you assess them on. But I think if you've taught for any period of time, you know that there's kind of a gut feeling that goes along with it. And I think my gut feeling kind of overrides a lot of times the paper and the documents. I probably shouldn't say that, but for the most part, I can tell, you know, if a student has skill or has actually kind of got a concept and who hasn't. I can probably also tell why they got the concept or why they didn't, whether they applied themselves or whether they didn't. So I document things. There are tasks that we do. There's levels of I don't want to say competency, but there's levels of achievement that they have to perform to my satisfaction or to our other instructors' satisfaction. But I know the question could go on into industry, and they say they're coming to us really not understanding that particular concept. And I thought you assessed them and said that they did understand it. And man, you have to understand that it's really hard to, in the little snapshot that we get of time with these students, to really say that they I don't want to say mastered that task by any means, but that they can do this out in the real world and maybe make you some money. I don't know. In the shop environment, when we're all talking and things are different, they might do it satisfactorily enough for me. They come to you for an internship kind of a deal, and they just fall apart. I mean, there's a stress factor that they don't count on. So how do we assess them? I don't know. There is a paper trail that we're supposed to follow, and we do, but in all reality, it doesn't mean that's the end product that goes out the door.
Any other? Go ahead, Paul.
Just wanted to speak on that for a second, because we all know as mechanics, you know, a lot of us are trainers now, but we were mechanics before, and we know that there are people with head knowledge and hand skills, and the paper trail that you just mentioned doesn't show that. You know, we just were speaking last night about, you know, one of my students in the past that, you know, dropped a bolt and looked for 45 minutes before he ever got on his knees and looked underneath to see if it fell all the way through, and he had an A in my class. So how do we, you know, it's a great question, but it's definitely, like you said, some of it's subjective. You know, I want to see what he does on his own, and, you know, live work for us at Rosedale, it really helps me do that, but you know, it's tough question.
Jeff, you want to add to that?
Yeah, if I could add to that, just to maybe to the shop owners, you know, if you get a young person in and you need to spend a little time in that interview with them, back and forth, and get a feeling for, does this young person really want to do this? And if you see the spark, in this person's eyes that they want to do this, you need to make a spot for that, even if you don't currently have a spot, and see if that person can be trained up. And instead of waiting, I've got a call or an email from a shop owner local to me that needs a journeyman tomorrow, right? Sure, they're on every street corner, right? Well, they're not, and he hasn't grown his own for a period of time. And if there's one thing that I could push out from that is, you know, grow your own, spend some time with it.
I'd like to expand on this a little bit more because I read into this a little differently, and all 5 of you I know are affected by this, because I'm sure there's a lot of people in here having the same issue. You got a class of 20, 25 people, you got limited resources, and you're in a lab. Is it group? Is it individual? Are you assessing that individual, or are they being assessed as a group? Because I think everybody in the room probably deals with that one time or another because class counts paying the bills. So, anyone want to kick off on that one?
I'd love to say that I can captivate the attention of 24 students all at one time, and they get what I'm doing out in the shop. I found that doesn't work, and I think that the divide and conquer method works pretty well. I try and have some type of supplemental resource, like maybe even some online training, that I'll take a third of the group and put them in here to do this. The other group might be getting set up for something else, and then I take a smaller group that really I can catch their attention and hopefully, you know, stress upon them everything from the safety down to, you know, just best practices while I have their attention, and then we'll rotate. And you know, you can watch the attention span, though. If I send everybody out to a car, and as much as they beg to get out in the shop and get their hands on cars, if I send them over to a car and just sit here and watch them, man, 2 or 3 of them have their phones out and they're talking, and then they'll have a lab sheet that I've painstakingly spent a lot of time to try and put together to walk them through it. We maybe gone through it as a class, and then I'm sending them out to do it on their own, and they still go over there sometimes and just stand around. So they have to kind of be broken up. You have to watch the personalities in the class that you don't really want hanging out together, even though they may want to hang out together. It's like having kids. It's like having a lot of kids.
Doug?
Good point. I think that on kids on their own don't really get it, and it's very difficult, as you've all indicated, which tends to tell us as industry, okay, as a shop owner myself, are we aligning ourselves with the local schools? Are we helping the local schools? Okay. Are we going to the classroom and addressing the students so that they understand what we expect? Okay. And would that be helpful? You've indicated that you've got a pretty good support team, or you do, and that I think makes a huge difference. There are no technicians on the tree that you can pluck tomorrow, okay, unless you go buy one, okay, or steal them as far as that's concerned. So if you don't grow them, you're not going to have them. Okay, and that's just the bottom line.
Bill?
I guess what we've done is tried to incorporate a little bit of a team concept. We've followed what Tim's done at Oklahoma State a little bit and incorporated a team concept when it comes to lab activities, knowing that every student probably will not get their hands on every project and do everything, and we as educators know that every NATEP task is not completely done by every individual, hands-on perfectly through. But being exposed to it at that level through the lab activities is pretty important, and then they have to realize that at any given time we could assess them on that. So everything's a learning project as we go along, and then come the end of a unit or something, we might assess them on a specific task. Because we've had students in the past who would be a great test taker academically in our NATEP test or what have you, going to place well, got a scholarship to move on into a great next program moving on, but they couldn't find the transmission dipstick. And we were like, oh, good grief, what did we do wrong here? Okay, or how did we miss that, or how did she miss that, or he, or whatever. Okay, so one thing that we do focus on is it's not necessarily what they don't know. They don't have confidence there. They have confidence in what they know. And if you asked every young person today, can they play in the NBA? Well, no, they probably can't, but it will take some practice to get there. If they quit now, we'll never have technicians. So this is a lifelong practice. None of us were downloaded with skills inside of us, right? We had to practice these things. And sometimes I think we notice that they start turning away from the career because, oh my gosh, so-and-so over there, man, they can do everything and I just can't. Well, it's okay. It's okay. They're not at that. They need more practice. They need more time to either learn a concept or get some lab time that we've kind of tried to put in place again because we've had to steer away from it a little bit. So,
Tim, let me interject one comment. Dan Beeson wrote in, with, of course, realistic expectations on behalf of the shop owner. So.
Yeah, and I could answer a bit of that is that if the shop owner's not involved in the program, then they don't know, and they haven't had a young person in the shop, they don't know what to expect from them. So, you know, the comment used to come back, and we now have headed that off, you know, don't you teach them kids there anything at that school? Well, yeah, but you're asking an entry-level technician to be able to do very high-end work. You want to pay low and expect journeyman level output, and that's kind of tough to do. And I think the shop owner and the workers need to reassess those expectations because you know, maybe you're getting a little gray and you got a lot of experience and you expect a lot out of this young person.
Okay. Okay. Brad? Okay, Paul and Tim, what resources are available for instructors that have more experience as a technician than a teacher?
He's 2 seats down from me. My biggest resource is Jeff. I kind of follow him. iATN, you know, hanging out with the educators, coming to Vision, going to NACAT. You have to immerse yourself in it. And I'm almost sounding hypocritical because I had a shop for 25 years and always found it hard, and you'll nod with me, to get away to come to an event like this. And I wish I had. As an instructor, you know, I begged the school to send me here, and of course they pay my way, so I'll come every time. But I've learned so much in the last 10 years that just by hanging around people like you all. So it's the personal learning network. It's going out and looking for stuff. You can't expect new teaching strategies and styles and things to come to you. You got to go visit other schools. I'm on his advisory committee. I love the stuff they do. I grab an idea from them or from anybody in this room and take it back and implement it. But it's just like anything. Any of these classes you take here this weekend, if you don't do something with them, then they're just another book on the shelf, and your students are not going to benefit from it. So my hope is that you're here because you want your students to benefit, to have a better learning experience. And of course, administration wants numbers and retention, et cetera. That'll all happen. If we have them engaged, if we're keeping them excited, that a lot of these attitude problems, I think, will solve themselves. But we have to, like you said, we have to find ways to keep them engaged. And unfortunately, you know, reading a textbook and doing lectures, I'm not sure it ever got it, but it sure doesn't get it now. So
I could speak on that for a second. And I'm thinking a few different places I wanted to go with that. One resources would be, as a technician that's entering the field of education, I've been at Rosedale long enough to see, you know, teachers come and go, and I think our best ones by far are industry technicians, no question about it. We've had a few career instructors that would come through and have very, very little hands-on in the field, and they just don't work out. So what do we need? We need good guys from the industry to come in that can speak, that can hold a thought, that can, you know, capture, you know, the audience attention. But I think as far as resources go, it also needs to be your own material. It can't be something else that you're just regurgitating from Google or from a book, or, you know, I see that happen a lot too, where we have these guys come in and they're just reading out of the textbook. Wait, you've been a mechanic for 30 years. Why are you reading out of the textbook? You can use that as a guide, but it needs to be your own. You need to speak to them from your own. So, I mean, that's what we need more of, and just not seeing enough of it.
We use a simple saying is you got to own it. It's the best way to do it, firsthand. Jeff, did you want to add to that? You're a pretty resourceful guy there.
Well, there's a couple of things that come to mind, and I think of Jim Cousteau out of San Diego years ago at an instructors conference. He mentioned an old instructor he had, and he said, Jeff, this guy said, an old German guy, he says, teach little, but teach that little well. And we get into, I think, the habit of trying to go 10 miles wide and a 1/4 inch deep, when sometimes we need to go 10 miles deep into a subject. We need to go drill way down in so that we understand the concept. And that, that engages students. If you can show the passion that you have with your students, then, that means a lot for those students. You can see it in their eyes.
Doug?
Two thoughts. One, there's 3 levels. You learn, you do, and then you teach. Each one of those levels requires more effort, okay? And as a good teacher, I think you have to have 4 times the amount of information that you can possibly present, okay, to be an excellent instructor, okay? Resources. I offer any instructor that's out there, you can sit in any of my classes, no charge, okay? So go find an instructor that's doing well, okay, and then it has a great reputation, and go sit in on his friggin' classes and find out just exactly how it works, okay? I think that it just is so important that be accomplished, okay? The last thing that I would like to add is that if you want to be the very best at what you do, okay, you seek out the very best and then you mimic that, okay? I was asked to teach a class one time. It was one of the final classes of a program. And it was supposed to be on scanners and advanced lab scope and heavy engine diagnostics, okay? What I quickly found out when I approached the class was that these guys couldn't test a battery or a starting system or a charging system, and I'm supposed to be putting them into this level, okay? So I simply went back and did that very same thing, okay? Let's teach them a little about, as an employer, what would I expect them to know if they wanted to come get a job from me, okay? And if you can't test a battery and a starting system, a charging system, I'm hard-pressed to give you a job, okay, if you follow my reasoning.
Jeff, did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, cross-training also. I really believe in cross-training. Not so much in my running, but in the field. I take the classes that you wouldn't expect me to see me at, on teaching, on pedagogy, on just some real broad variety of things, and then observe other people. I went to a Toyota class with John Thornton, and I don't do Toyotas, I don't do any of that, but I went to see that person in that style. So definitely I believe in cross-training.
Bill, did you have a comment?
Yeah, one of the greatest resources we have as an automotive instructor is our labs as well. I mean, if they can prove that they can teach automotive out of a text or just online e-learning, then they're absolutely incorrect and we'd all be out of business. But our labs and what we can able to do in our labs is a great opportunity for us to bring that learning to life, and we all realize that as well. But when we allow a student to go to the lab and start testing some things themselves and then seeing their results and maybe proving some myths maybe through lab activities, maybe testing fuel. We do some fuel testing to see if 87 is better than 91 or Casey's is better than Quick Trip, or did that Rochester carburetor work better than Eldebrock on the 68 C10 pickup truck. Let them test that. Let them prove it. Does cold air intakes make a difference? These things, problem-based research, that helps because we as technicians, if you're successful, you problem-based research every day. And you have to prove your answers at least by 2 ways by proving an answer if it needs that mass airflow or whatever. That's where it starts. So we have that lab in order to bring that learning to life. And then when they start realizing that, it might take them year 1 to get through year 1 to realize that it's more than just nuts and bolts. And by far, we're not teaching them to be a diagnostic tech coming out of high school, but we're exposing them to that technology because they love technology. We know that. But exposing it to them and letting them play around in the shop in a learning atmosphere, that's really the best resource I think that we have.
I think it's a good point to say that. I've been saying if you have questions. Do we have any comments? There's a lot of experience in the room too. Anybody would like to add to this? Something unique you're doing or something you could be as a helpful tip to people out there listening? Yeah, hold on, Steve.
My name is Steve Caruso. I'm a new instructor in the industry. What type of mentoring program do you have for people like me coming in? I'm 2 years into teaching. Is there a mentoring program that the elders, I should say, or the older ones with more experience can give to us younger people coming in?
Picture a fire, picture yourself being thrown into it. And I say that because I think it's a real weak area. I told you I sold a shop and went to teach thinking just because I knew subject matter or thought I knew subject matter that I could teach, and teaching's a whole other career. It's not just a different job. Our campus is just now finally built a department to start training new teachers in all disciplines, but just really how to teach. Otherwise, it was truly, I mean, I walked onto campus August 12th, and like 15 days later we had students. And I mean, I had no idea what I was doing, and I really feel like, that first class ought to have a refund personally. But we've got through it, and each year you get better and better, and then, you start networking and meeting people and honing, it to a better deal. But that's a weak area, almost like taking a tech or a student and putting him into a shop. There's an expectation gap there, too, that needs to be addressed to make that transition smoother. Everybody needs to know what's going on, and when you go to teach, I don't know, when we hire new instructors, there's the university job description, and then when we get down to the guy that we're going to hire, I take him out to lunch and say, let me show you what we really have to do. And I just want to make sure that they see that there's a lot more to it than how it appears. But that's a great question, because I don't think it's done correctly just yet. Hanging out on iATN, going to NACAT, starting to come to things like Vision and whatever, and we're hoping that the Educator think tank part of Vision is a resource that you can use too. And if nothing else, grab as many business cards as you can. Just start bugging these people, write them and say, what did you do? How was your first year? And a lot of times, I mean, your feelings are the same as that they've had. I mean, if I had not had a really good instructor to go that first 2 years with, we both would have quit. I mean, it was just way too frustrating. And we just kind of played off each other and made it happen, and it was worth it, but it was pretty lonely feeling there for a while.
Steve, I'd like to follow up on that. If you're in my area, or in the area you're in Southern California, I know there's some colleges there that you can knock on the door and say, I'm making this transition, what can you do to help me? And I know there's a number of them that would say, come on in. We say, come in, sit down. You can watch any of our classes at any time, watch each person, take a little bit from each, become your own, and that's how we work people into the system. So sometimes you got to do a little door knocking and saying, hey, I'm interested, and you'd be surprised the response you'll get.
My guess is anybody sitting up here would be happy to help, okay? But you have to ask.
Yeah. Okay, Brett? Okay, Doug, how do we address challenges of teaching technical skills versus soft skills, such as work ethic, show up on time, manuals, etc.?
I think you have to incorporate both at the same time. As far as my particular program is concerned, part of what the students are required to do is to be in my class on time, to look and have an appearance and be dressed appropriately, manuals, I'm not sure exactly what
I think more the skills of using the resources.
Oh, and part of my program automatically, I have 4 rules, okay? The first rule is engage your brain before your hands. The second rule is check the basics. The third rule is check the basics, okay? And the fourth rule is please check the basics, okay? Because I have a reputation at my repair shop of being able to fix problems that other shops cannot. Over 50% of them are basic problems that someone overlooked, okay? So that has to be in an incorporated program. For those, when I taught at the college level, it was part of the grade, okay? A good 25% of the grade was showing up on time, looking like you were there to be paying attention, okay? And of course, doing the basics and your homework before you start working on the car. The car doesn't need you to do extra things to it, okay? The car needs you to just do the minimum amount of stuff to fix it, okay? And if you do your homework properly and you formulate a good plan, then the car doesn't suffer.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any questions, comments?
There was a fellow back here.
Okay. I'll work my way back there. And
He actually had his hand up the last time.
Oh, I'm sorry. There you go. There you go, buddy.
My name is Ed Martin. I teach in Aurora, Colorado. And one way to meet this challenge is to bring in industry professionals, shop managers, shop owners, have them talk to the students. And if they hear from them that they have to be on time, every day they'll buy into it more. Because sometimes it's just us kind of just preaching. They need to hear it from industry, the guys out in the industry that hire them.
Okay.
Absolutely, goes right back to the point of industry aligning themselves with the schools to help.
I wrote this question, and my intent was when I meant soft skills was the personal skills. You know, how to communicate, how to look right, how to talk well. You know, versus the technical skills fixing the car. And so I feel like I've spent more time lately with students trying to teach them soft skills, how to be a better person, you know, communicate better, rather than technical skills that, you know, we're trying to cover our NATEF areas. And so my time is being consumed more with the soft skills, but then therefore I lack on the time to spend on the technical skills.
Again, I think industry aligning themselves with the schools is going to help that a lot. Okay, I don't think that you are wasting your time. Okay, I think it's equally valuable. Okay, if you think about the people that are out there spending money on their cars, okay, what do they expect? Okay, we are what we eat. Yes. So if you look like a rag bag, that's how you're going to get treated, okay? If you don't know what a razor is and you can't keep your face shaved and your hair cut and a clean uniform and all those kinds of things, I think it directly affects on who we are, okay? Every day I work on that same area, okay? If you come to my shop, okay, you'll find a bright, shiny epoxy floor, and we don't use floor mats, and we don't use seat covers because we just don't need them, okay? Because if you stay clean and you operate clean, everything works a lot better, okay? And I think that those soft skills that you're putting extra effort into pay the extra price. And it's unfortunate that mom and dad aren't teaching them those skills already.
Bill?
Yeah, I would.
Oh, Jeff?
I would follow up on that and say that it is time well spent, and if the particular task doesn't get completely mastered, at least the person maybe is becoming more mastered, and we've got a healthier person in the workplace that'll participate in society. And then they're going to have to catch up on the learning. If they can learn how to learn, they should be able to catch up. But boy, some of those, you know, I've had to throw my arm up around a couple of students and say, you know, you really need to take a shower, and that's a tough thing to do, to have to do that. But I think they need to know.
Bill?
I'm right with you. I think we've discussed some things like this in the past, working at the secondary level. I think the majority of what we teach at times is professional development and just a little bit of automotive, I think. But what we model in our shops is what we're trying to put our students in as well. So we've incorporated wearing uniforms at least 2 days a week so that professionalism comes out as well. Portfolio development, they have to come up with a resume and be ready to go interview. We do great on work ethic, so we have to teach ethics. They don't understand what discipline is. They think that means they're getting in trouble. Discipline isn't that. It's self-control. How do you manage, be self-management? You know, ethically, are you staying on task in the lab activities as well? It's just not attendance, because a plant can be here and catch sun rays and not get anything but sun rays. So we need more than that. So really, that's a lot of what we do. Model it in our program, and then have industry come in and do some activities like that. Some job interview. Superintendents come in and interview our students in mock interviews to prepare them. And in that work ethic grade, it doesn't matter how well they did in our automotive curriculum. A student wants a job, me to call in a dealership for a job, and I had it just this week. He said, Mr. Lieb, when are you going to call for this job for me? I said, what would you like me to tell them about you? Because if you look at your work ethic grade and how you're presenting yourself right now, what would you like me to say? Your attendance? Your pants that keep sagging? The safety glasses that aren't on your eyes? What would you like me to say? and it gets real hard for me to do that because they're representing our program and all of us as well. So it is a learning, constant learning that we have to go through every year because we get a new bunch every year, but you know, our industry has to realize that as well. It's educating our advisory committee on what we're dealing with this lack of work ethic or soft skills that we're dealing with, besides some of the academic stuff that we're struggling with as well. But you know, it's really neat when you see the industry sees what we're talking about. They get new employees that can't do some of the things, and they're not showing up on time. So I've seen some aggressive pace changes from shops just on based. If they show up, they get paid $1 more that day or per hour. So they're doing some aggressive things in some shops just to reward those that show up and work. So, yeah.
Doug?
As an employer, if you are the very best technician I've ever met, and your pants are down and I'm looking at your underwear, okay, you're not going to have a job, okay? So since mom and dad aren't teaching them, give a man a fish, he's good for the day. Teach him to fish, he's good for life. And so teaching him to fish takes on many aspects, and I think you just, if you're encountering that, you just got to do it.
Just curious, how many people use time cards? What's the percentage? The rest taken, roll manually, or, okay? We've used time cards successfully for over 30 years, 35 plus years, and that clock just seems, and now we've gone to the fingerprint, thumbprint, and it's automatically put in the computer, which has really helped the instructors. It's all documented. There's no questions about time clocks being off. Very simple and good, clean process. Does that answer all you, since you identified yourself with that question? We good? Okay, next one. Okay, Tim. Whoop.
One of the things I've started doing is job evaluations every semester. At the end of the semester, I give the kids a job evaluation. It has 10 different points on it, everything from attitude to work to whether on time, working, how they work with others, etc. And I give them one to fill out, and I fill one out, and we sit together and exchange them. And they usually rate themselves lower than what I rate them, so they know what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong. And then we have a little chat on what they can do to improve. And then I tell them a target of what I expect for them the next semester to either maintain what they have or bring it up. And that seems to work pretty well.
Can I add to that before we move to this question?
Go right ahead, Paul.
All right. I just want to add maybe a little bit of a counter voice from what we're hearing, because when I get these guys that come to me, you know, we're an associate degree program, and when they leave my program, they're going to industry immediately. So for me, the technical side is way more important than the ethics and stuff. I need them to be there before they get to me, and I don't have time for that, to be honest with you. I have 8 weeks to handle my engine performance class, and I need them to be up and ready to go, and if they're not, they're getting left behind, because if I spend time on that, then I have the 3 or 4, you know, maybe out of 15, really, that's the ratio. Those are the guys I'm teaching to, and the other ones, you know, they're maybe not with me, but if I back up and spend time on those types of things, what am I producing for the shops that need a diagnostic guy? I'm not producing what I need to be, you know what I mean? And then speaking from a guy with my past, which is, if you know anything about what I used to look like, long hair halfway down my back, and you know, I was that guy with the pants down around his, in a different era. Do you know what I mean? I don't care what they look like. Do you know what I mean? Like, some of my best students are the ones that look the roughest. Do you know what I mean? So I think we definitely all have different ideas with that, but certainly our field doesn't help the image. You know, we have this image in our industry that we're just a bunch of grease balls and, you know, don't know a whole lot, and you know, that needs to change for sure. And it doesn't help that we look that way, but at the same time, you know what I mean, this is what we get. It goes so deep. The high schools, they don't push the really, you know, intelligent, really good students our way. You know, they're pushing them into the colleges. What about the trades? Why aren't we hearing that more? So, you know, the problem goes so far back, and for me, I can't fix it. I can only take what I get, and I'm going to teach to the top. So I guess for anybody, you know, listening, really, you got to, you know, have everything in order to hang with me and be able to, you know, be a diagnostic guy in this field. So.
Okay. Tim. Any other? Okay, yeah, Gary?
I just have one short comment. I understand what Dan's saying because I used to teach the same way. I had to teach students ready for jobs. I did adult education. So you got to balance it both ways. But this industry has got a huge problem with image. I used to serve on the state vocational teaching standards committee for Colorado, and I'm sitting there in a room full of people with PhDs in education, and I actually had one lady, Dr. So-and-so, ask me if a mechanic actually had to know how to read. Now that's our image out there. Now, we can't change the older generations like Dan. Yeah, some guys, you're not going to change them. But where we do need to start with image is at the secondary and entry post-secondary level. And I agree with you guys. Now, back when I taught, it was during the era of the hippie age, you know, and we really had a problem with that. You know, the long hair getting tangled up in a grinder and, you know, alternator belts and all that. So we had to have a lot of standards, but we still never got over that image thing. But nowadays, you know, an auto mechanic is really a master technician in the strictest sense of the word. And people expect that. And if we're going to change the image, we need to change the image at an early stage in our education. Just my opinion.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Okay, Tim, we got one for you, and it looks like we got a few more questions in the background, so we're going to have to maybe pick it up a little bit. Let's see. Our school is limited on space. Our advisory committee has told us for years we need to expand. Administration says no money. Any advice?
Well, I can speed it up. I don't have an answer for this one, so let's just move
Oh,
to
you
the
did?
next one.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. I'd question that administration says they have no money, and I would put the responsibility on the advisory committee and let them duke it out. And then and the only other thing I feel like I could control would be make my program worth expanding the building for. And I found for a long time I went kind of under the radar. I didn't toot my own horn. And I really didn't have a lot to toot my horn about, to be honest with you. We were just kind of getting by. The president would walk through our building. I knew who he was. We'd wave and go on. And then as we started implementing more things that actually made a difference and got students engaged and did community outreach and things that just kind of made our program, were more of an identifier of our program, I started making sure that the new administration knew who we were. I send them links all the time. They know that I'm sitting here today representing Oklahoma State University. They wouldn't have. I mean, they wouldn't have searched it out, so I sent it to them. And so when I go to talk about expanding a building or whatever, they would take that into consideration along with, and it has to be a really strong advisory committee going in and saying, hey, we need this, you need to expand, and how can we help too? Because they might be able to all work it out. There might be a lot of donations, a lot of money left on the table. You just, you know, as a teacher, we all know if you don't ask, you don't get. So,
Bill, did you want to add in that?
The advisory committee, NATEF certification. If you go right through the standards and equipment needs and shop amount of, you know, size and what have you to accommodate student, I mean, it kind of spells it out, and the advisory committee can command it. There's no doubt.
I'd add to that by saying yes. One is workstations and safety. Been on ROP advisory boards, and we have in our state, and they like to pack them in, 30, 35, and they're wanting to do this or that. The first thing I say is you don't have enough workstations to properly take care of these students. It's a safety issue. Boom, things change. So you got to kick those kind of things in there. They got to see some cost in the end. It's going to cost them if they don't follow some of these things. We can't say all of them, but that's an important one. Put it back on them with this idea of this is an unsafe situation. Okay, we good on this one? Go ahead, Brad. Tim, somehow I know there's a B up there. Oh, sir.
Gentleman right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
My name's Steven. I work at Salina Tech, and I thought I'd push out there for you guys. This mobile stuff, that's absolutely where you can get your money at. Scanner Danner up there. He's pushing a bunch of YouTube videos. But electronics, mobile devices, that's where everything's going. If you want your tuition numbers to boost, because that's where a lot of the no money comes from, is no tuition numbers, or they tell you that your tuition numbers are low. Your mobile devices boost your tuition number. Your enrollment numbers go up with mobile devices, and they help. And these guys in the industry like the mobile devices. It increases their productivity. So I would say push, 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 and keep fighting for mobile stuff too.
Okay, we got a B up there and a Tim. So let's see. Many administrators do not see how important reading is to automotive. I have shown them books and information systems, innovation, video, internet, and frowned by administration.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think then you need to perhaps find where internet and video are working in somebody else's classrooms and take your administrator there if you have to. I don't, you know, I won't say that every one of us is doing everything just perfectly right. There's probably stuff that works better in his program than in mine and whatever. And I learned something. I said that earlier, that I learn something every time I come here. I think the key word there and is administrators. I don't think a lot of times they really know what we're faced with. I think there's a thin line between trying to entertain the students and going to where they are to teach them. And they are in electronics. They are in video. They are on the internet. It is the tool of the future. I mean, you can't. To me, we've had our shops or our students design a fantasy shop, you know, and it's got internet at each station. And you go to, you know, of course, dealerships and stuff now are all going the same way. I don't see how they can frown on it and expect you to educate. I just don't. So I would say go do some programs where maybe it is being implemented in a safe way and show them that it's not some big dangerous thing where the students are going to be on, you know, the inappropriate sites all the time, and show that that they're learning from it too, and see what happens.
Doug?
It's not uncommon for me as a technician to have to go through at least 50 pages of information to familiarize myself with a particular system that I'm working on. Reading skills are absolutely mandatory. Okay.
Show them a textbook, let them see what they're doing, and send them one of the links. Go ahead, Paul.
Some opposition that I've heard with video, now the internet's changed things, but in the past we've had instructors that would come through and, you know, throw a movie in, or not a movie, but a little clip on how to do something, and there's certainly opposition to that, because I know from hearing it from our administration is, look, they're paying for a live audience, or, you know, a live show, not a video. So I think, you know, Tim and I did a class this morning that we broke down a video, but it wasn't just playing the video. It was using a piece of the video and using it as a tool to engage the class, and using it as, you know, a different piece of information, not just a textbook, you know, that you're learning from. So used in the right way, I think that would be my comment on that. I think it's great, but used in the wrong way, it can be really bad too. And my own students in my own videos, they don't want me to just press play on one of my case studies and just let them watch it. They want to know why. They want to know, you know, I need to stop, engage them. So, you know, just a comment.
Good. Okay, Brad? Okay, Jeff, tips on teaching more content with lower quality of student with less course time.
Yeah, that's tough. I'd put it all back into the student's lap. You know, on the very first day of class, this is an old story that those of you who've been around me before have heard. I invite the student to go back up and get their money back if they don't want to be in the program. We're a college program. I expect college work out of adults. And if you're not going to act like an adult, then, you know, maybe welding is a program for you. I don't know. I can get you signed up, though. So more content. What I've done with content lately is I have cut content to the bone. I have taken each area and decided what is the absolute bare minimum that they must leave the program with. And that is the baseline. That is where we start. And NATEF tasks are a good level to start that at. And then Once we master those tasks, or try to master those tasks, we can add to those things. So it's back at that teach little well. And then I also engage my students in writing projects. They maintain their own learning portfolios or blogs. They take pictures and videos of their work. They must write a learning reflection every week. Those are due at midnight on Monday night. And I read all those, and I learn a lot about what's in the heads of these students and some of the amazing things that some of them have overcome, and some of the amazing work that they are doing in their internship programs, which is every other quarter for us.
Okay, Bill?
Really, when I started 8 years ago, I thought you could teach automotive just during class time. And then I realized shortly thereafter that it couldn't be done. So we had to incorporate homework, believe it or not, in automotive 8 years ago. And that's become a lot easier through e-learning. And our program is actually certified using some e-learning as part of our NATEF requirements to cover some of the content. We've done exactly what Jeff's done, is you had to cut back and really pick out exactly some of the key things that you really want them to know and do good at. But making our classroom available online as well, with the help of my partners, we've done a lot of that, and a lot of other activities through Google and uploading documents and what have you. And going back to the question prior, we do you have to work on that reading. We've had students that cannot write, and you can't fill out a job application, and not all of that's done online. They can't type it all up, and we do not speak in text. They might talk in it on their phone, but we need them actually to communicate something besides text. So it does take that and put a little bit on us at the secondary level to work on those reading and academics.
Okay. Brad? Okay, for the panel, how do we get employers to get students to complete the programs and get their ASEs? Got the job, why do I need you? Or they go to the factory classes without getting a degree?
Well, one of the ways that you can promote this is obviously with dollars and cents. Most of the employers that I know, and as an employer myself, I require all of my technicians to be ASE certified, national ASE certified. And if you don't, it's not a requirement to get the job, but you better be on the track to get that done in a reasonable period of time, and we set the time frame. Other employers simply pay extra dollars for every one of the ASE certificates that you get. Whether it's a quarter or a dollar or whatever the heck it is, that's an automatic incentive in order to keep them up to speed. Other employers simply require X amount of school time per quarter or per month, as the case might be, because as you all know, this is an ongoing education process. If you're going to be a good technician, school's never over.
Okay, Bill?
Secondary level, we test in NATEF, all 8 areas still, and then with the new MLR, we put our students through that. We know it's not necessarily at the level of the AC test as a technician would take, but an employer does recognize that. We also incorporated a Missouri Vehicle Inspector opportunity for a student to be able to test in our program for state inspection for being an inspector. So to help them with employability. So if our programs are aligned with industry, which they are in NATEF and what have you, it's gonna help bridge them into that next level. Also with our advisory committee, we offer training 6 times a year, aftermarket training, and students are allowed to attend that as well. So they get to see technicians coming in, taking training after a long day at work, because they don't get a day out unless they come to Vision, I guess. But they still go to training till 9, 10 o'clock at night, so students are able to see that as well. So we kind of model what they're gonna see, and it is continual life learning.
Tim, did you have comments to that?
Yeah, real quick, if we see a student heading down that path, being kind of wooed away from finishing the class and going on to just working full time, first of all, it's a red flag for me to put a student in that shop again, because I don't think that's the kind of shop I really want my student to be in. But B, ultimately, I tell the student, your education is your responsibility, and don't let somebody talk you into taking a shortcut. You're ultimately, they can promise you a whole lot right now, and all of a sudden a new service manager's in 6 months from now, and you're out, and you're going to regret that you dropped out of this class. And then B, finishing what you started is always better in the long run. So there's a character trait there to be learned. And so, you know, even if you don't decide to stay with this, you know, this vocation or the shop, or you want to go on and do something else, finish what you started.
Okay. Brett? Okay. Training vehicles that use current technology are becoming increasingly hard to come by, especially for training programs who are not tied to specific manufacturer. How can these programs obtain recent manufactured training vehicles? Probably our biggest battle. We know what the carrot was for years. It's not in anymore. I strongly recommend that you produce a letter, local dealers. You only need one car. You don't need 5 cars off of that lot. You don't need the newest car. You need something with some mileage on it. That does work. We've employed that. And when you put only the load on them for maybe 1 versus 5, you'd be surprised how they respond. The other thing is, if you have training centers in your area that you can get alliance with, that you've been, we have a Nissan training center 50 miles from us, 40 miles from us in Pleasanton, California. Every couple of years when he's got vehicles available, he calls me. The reason he calls me is he knows I can get it through my administration in no time at all, and I can have those vehicles towed within a day or 2 after they're approved. It costs me $400 or $500, but we find the money to get the vehicles there. Not new, just a little older. Those are the 2 best resources, because the industries, we know if you're not Alliance, the cars have dried up. And even with NATEP, they've dried up. I think we had a comment.
One thing that we've done is rent cars. You know, it's maybe not totally ethical, but yeah, we have gone down and rented a couple so that we could finish what we needed to.
Good idea.
Okay. Okay. It's a tough battle. It really is. Yep, Steve.
I've worked for 2 OEs in the last year and a half, and one of the things I've found is if you approach them to get their buyback vehicles, these vehicles are usually going to be crushed, or they're Type 1 prototypes,
Okay.
or they're even their P2 prototypes. These cars are going to be crushed anyways. As long as you don't put them on highway use or any type of road use, they're just sitting there rotting for the most part. And all it does is require a little bit of work, talking to administration and getting in with the right people, which you can usually do through the manufacturers, and they'll be more than happy to give them away.
One no leads to a thank you, and then all of you are in this business because you're resourceful. You keep digging. You'll find that it'll happen along the way. I guarantee you. There's people out there. General Motors for years, when they hit $2 million, that was it. That's all they donated. We watch vehicles being scrapped. You just got to be persistent and get to your local dealers. One vehicle, used car, you'll be surprised. If they're on your advisory board, they're waiting, you know, big thing. They're waiting for the manufacturer to deliver them. They're waiting for well, we're going to give up these new cars. No, off your used car lot. It does work. Okay, I think we've hit the questions, but there's one we didn't address that I want to see if we can get comments from the panel and from the audience. And that's teaching the next generation, raising the standards and basic skills. But there was a question in about attracting them. And I don't think we really got to what are we going to do to attract them. Maybe we could finish with the idea of what do we got to do to attract the quality students to our programs. Jeff, you want us to kick it off?
I want to be in the grade schools and the middle schools. High schools are too late. I don't recruit out of high schools anymore. That's wasted time. We need to get young men and girls, women involved in the industry early on, and I applaud for what Bill's doing in his program, doing the summer 6-week summer program. I think it is that you bring in those 8th graders. That is, you know, that's an outreach program that I think has got traction, and even younger. You know, these young folks like to mess with stuff, and then you know, as they get a little older, they're told they can't break anything. You got to let them break some things, like you did when you were young, right?
Paul or Tim?
I think what's working for us a little bit is Facebook. I mean, we've got a page for our program on Facebook, And I'll put tons of stuff up there, things that we're doing in our program, things that of interest to just automotive gearhead people, even just clips of stuff that of interest to me, and just kind of keep feeding there. And then we put a lot of stuff up that we do in our program, kind of showing, you know, a day in the life of a student at ProTech. And who sees it? You know, if you've ever set up a Facebook page, there's as an administrator, you get access to what's called an insight page, and it shows everything from who's looked at it to their age, to their gender, to what country they come from, how many languages are being, you know, it's being translated into, and it's pretty phenomenal. We've got, for just our little program, I mean, we've got quite a big reach, and so I see people liking it all the time that I don't even know who they are. So I know it's working in a recruiting fashion, and if they see that we go on a drag racing field trip, or we go to this car auction and work, or we're doing something in class that looks interesting, my hope is that they'll come to the light. I don't know. That's what we do.
Paul?
I think well, I'm not involved in the recruiting side at all. I'm just in my classroom. But I think from an instructor, and my duty would be to be excited about what I'm doing. I love what I do. I think too many times we get these instructors that want to come through and they're just done with the field, and they come in with this attitude of, well, I'm done, so I'm just going to teach now, you know, and that we don't need that attitude, you know. That's not helping anybody. So I'd be excited about it, like what you do. You know, getting that one student that, you know, really didn't have direction, and you see that switch, you know, that just change in him. It's like fixing that car that came to you from 3 different garages and nobody could fix it, and you fix the car and it's running and you watch it leave. You know, that feeling. Nobody has to pat you on the back for that. You know, that's exciting, man.
Let me follow up on that, because you just did the greatest recruiting possible. You said you're excited in your classroom. You don't recruit. I guarantee you that many of your students are coming to you because of word of mouth. There's your advertisement. You're doing the best advertisement right there. Bill?
Same thing, word of mouth, keeping in touch with the students that you're working with, making sure that they're enjoying their activities and what have you that they're doing, and you can keep a good hand on the pulse of what's going on in your program, because they are the best voice for your program. Besides any other activities involved in the community, we're going to be involved in a car show this year and have a little booth. So anything that you can do to bring better access. Stepping back to the question prior, we, for the first time in 8 years, received a GM donation at the high school level. If you have great relationships with colleges, sometimes we get a car from them. I do have contact information, and I can pass that on. But other two schools in our district as well received a donation, and it's been a very long time. One key requirement they had to have was NATEF. You had to be NATEF certified before you really went down that path. But it took a phone call, sending them a little bit of information, and we got a car Monday. So that was pretty neat. But
being enthusiastic in the classroom is definitely an instructor requirement. Okay, if you want to do well and you want to engage your students, you have to be excited about what you're doing and what you're relaying. Okay, as far as recruitment of students are concerned, not only does that breed students coming to you because of reputation, but what Jeff said, okay? And then your advisory committees are going right back to that same scenario. Who has kids in the grade schools? And it's going to be your advisories, okay? And send those guys out to the grade schools and have them have a talk with them about what can be happening, and be easy to write up some kind of a short synopsis of high points to hit while you're talking to the kids, okay? That would ring their bell.
Let me kind of, go ahead, G.
But I think the big problem is, how do we get the people involved in the industry? The problem is all about money, isn't it? I did a paper years back, Life After Wrenching. Where's the career path that we have for someone? If you're a technician, about when you're 40 years old, you slow up quite a bit. You're not making the money. You guys work on flat rate. You know what I'm talking about. So where do you go? You become the service advisor, the service writer, or the dreaded shop owner? Where's the money? If we had money in the industry, then people would want to go to your schools. I sit on my local advisory board for a school, and a lot of the kids that are there, the bright kids, they don't stay in automotive. They get out and go somewhere else. Why? Because let's face it, no matter what you think, go to the real shops out there. What are they really paying? $10, $15 an hour? A lot of guys get no benefits whatsoever, poor vacation, no retirement. What's a kid to look for?
whether a male or female. That's the big problem in this industry. You have too many people paying off the books, jerking around. These guys buy toolboxes. They could buy a freaking house for what they put into a toolbox. I can tell you, I have over $100,000 in hand tools. And I'm one of the fortunate few. When I did that thing, I believe, George, you were on my panel. You were one of the people. The fortunate dozen, the guys who made it out of the industry to do something else, like most of us educators in here. But we need to attract people in so they do go to your school, they do go to work in a shop somewhere. And the only thing you to do that is give them a good career path with some solid pay, where they know they're gonna make something. Because let's face it, you could be a laborer. I'm from New York. Laborers make 25, 30 bucks an hour. What does a mechanic make? Less than that. And they have no investment in tools. And they get paid vacations. They get a retirement. How many people here are technicians that have a retirement? If you don't work for a big company, you work for an independent shop? That's a good shop. But the average is, every class I do, I usually ask that question. Not bad. But what's the average in the country? It's pretty poor. So you guys that are doing all the great jobs educating, you know, hats off to you, but we need to pull more people in and keep the guy in the industry. That's the biggie. Thank you.
Okay, I guess in wrapping this up, I'd like to say is one thing I say when I meet with college counselors or even parents, and I don't know if you do this too, because I'm sure all of you deal with this, I ask them 4 questions. You get up in the morning, shower doesn't work, coffee pot doesn't work, hair dryer doesn't work, car doesn't work. What ruins your day? What's the answer? The car. Why do you place so little value on it? There's where we got to start. Jeff talks about the early grades. You got to start with the family. You got to start with the counselors. And darn it, we're giving AS degrees. We're giving them 60, 90 units of automotive. They're doing college work. We just haven't done a good job promoting it with the masses. And I do agree with G. We have another image there that's another thing we got to resolve. What we're hoping this leads to is a follow-up at other conferences, really spurs a dialogue on iATN in the near future to really keep the Educator Forum going. Pete's group started this earlier this year, or last year. We want to keep this going. We want this dialogue to keep going. We've got to address the issues like G just brought up. We can't stop here. You're doing a great job out there. You need the help. We're here to help you. As many of us as we can will help you. Okay, any further questions, comments? Okay, in wrapping up, first of all, I'd like to say thank you to Sherry Hamilton and ASA for allowing us to, she helped organize this. We pulled together with her assistance, giving us this time. And also to Scott Brown from iATN for stepping in and doing the webcast and just pulling this whole thing together. And I want to thank both of them from the panel and thank everybody in the panel for all the conference calls that we spent this last 6 months trying to pull this together. And we appreciate any comments we can get from you to help make this better. We know we've been beating this on iATN. I know it's kind of, some things are talked about the Band-Aid. We've got to do something, or we're in serious trouble. And everybody's got to step up because we get lost in our own little world when we leave here. You get lost in your own little world, we'll be back here 6 months again, dealing with the same question, same issue, gone nowhere. Each and every one of you has got to get involved somehow, some way, in what we can do to make this better. I have no further words. Anyone else want to? Paul, go right ahead.
One comment, just to back up maybe or follow up what G said. There is money in this field, but it's not in the parts changers. And anybody can be a parts hanger, you know, and this is the persona that we have in this field is how many guys we know that didn't have any schooling at all that are in the garages and they're working. Who's making the money? It's the drivability diagnostic guy. That's the guy who's making the money. There is massive amount of money in this field, and there's a huge demand for that diagnostic guy. I mean, you can't even change a headlight bulb without knowing some type, you know, these headlights that turn with you steering the car. There is a huge demand. There's a huge lack of diagnostic guys. How many people do we know in this conference that are mobile diagnostic guys? Why is that? Because they're not, the garages don't have what they need to fix these cars. They need someone to tell them what to do, and there's a huge demand. So that should be attracting to the young guy that, you know, is tech savvy and likes to play with computers and voltages and things like that. Man, it's an exciting field, and there is a ton of money in drivability.
Paul, I agree with you 100%. There is money for the top guys. But here's the deal. You know why a lot of shops do not have a good tech? They don't want to pay them. So they'll use the mobile tech.
But that's going to catch up to them. We're seeing that now, aren't we? Because they're not the old way of, you know, let's try this part and try this part. It's not working anymore.
But
it's not. And you go on Google and you could just, we were just talking about that. You Google it and see all the problems these guys are having. It's not working. You know, you need that, you know?
You know, from the 60s and 70s that I've been around and for a while, guess what? There was always going to push the guy out that wasn't up there, right? Well, that never really happened, let's face it. They throw parts at the car, and if you worked at a dealer, the parts manager has a nice glue gun, so when you threw that part in and it didn't work, you put it back in the box, glued it up, and you were ready to go. Diagnostic stuff, there's far and few. You know, just like we're speaking to this gentleman here. Yeah, there's people, I made 6 digits a year in doing what I did, okay? But it's the small minority that is making that money. You got to go by the masses of guys that are out. I bet if you did a poll at this conference of technicians, they're somewhere in that 50 to 60,000, if they're lucky, range. And that's what we got to stop. We got to change it.
Great. I think the easiest way to change that, though, is to back up Paul up there, and that's teach more of the diagnostic side of things. Quit letting the guys come in with the car and say, you know, it's not a big deal. I just go rob one off the car out in the parking lot. Well, when modules are $300 to $7,000, I mean, just numbers are getting astronomical now. You can't just keep throwing parts anymore. So really push the electronical side of things, push the mobile, not mobile diagnostics, but mobile aspects. The diagnostics equipment that's out there is far more capable than what we're teaching. And that mobile side of things is also what's going to bring your students back into the program. That's what's going to keep them there. That's what they're used to now. They're sitting at home all day playing on their iPhones. Put their iPhone in the friggin' classroom. Give it back to them and show them, hey, that iPhone's not just a toy. You can make that 6-digit figure if you want to learn. And just push the diagnostics aspect.
Okay, Pete or Gary, I'll get you in and we'll finish with Pete. There.
I'll try and keep it short, but again, I've been involved in many different aspects of education and industry. I won't go through it all, but one of the things I saw here, there's a crying need for an internship program that requires industry to step up to the plate, schools to step up to the plate. Transition that student from school to industry. What we're doing, the flat rate system works against that. Flat rate tech out there working flat rate, he doesn't want to take time to mentor some young kid. And yet that's what that kid needs so he can get up to that level we're talking about. And the other thing is, I agree with Jerry 100%. The industry itself has got a lot of changes it's got to make, compensation and pay. And when industry steps up to the plate, then education can step up to the plate too.
Okay, Gary, thank you. Pete?
I'd really try to stay quiet. First, I want to say I respect every man on this panel for what they do. I respect every educator, every trainer in this room for what they do. But we keep hearing comments, the industry this, the industry that. Look around this room. Look around the halls. We're the industry. We're the ones that have to make the changes. I've advocated every shop owner I run into. You got a farm team in your own backyard, and you guys are the coaches for those farm teams. They need to be involved in that advisory council. At the same token, there's a lot of educators that I've met that never leave their building. They need to get out into the field and talk to those guys.
Right.
To the talk about the drivability checks. Yeah, we need it. But be honest, guys. You guys teach these kids every single day. What percentage of those have the critical thinking skills to be successful at that? We need the guys to change the tires and do the brake jobs and suspension repairs as well. The median income in this country, according to the Bureau of Labor, is $36,000 and some change, and that's down from 2 years ago. Okay? There's a lot of things that we have to do to make the changes that we're all talking about, and we've been talking about them for 30 years.
Pete, I say it's 5 to 10% is the number that I'm on what you just said.
Right, that are up at the top.
That's
making
it.
That money.
That's it.
You know, a lot of changes, like you said, that we all talked about. We need a hub to run that through. So all the work that you guys are doing, all the work that other industry organizations are doing, they fall short when it comes to the committee report and the results are released, and we all read it and go, oh yeah, that makes sense. But nothing's getting done. Time to change that, and it's going to start with every single one of us in your own communities. Just like our industry is a grassroots industry, that's what's going to make the change. So when you guys leave here, take that part back. If you take nothing else, take that part back. What are you going to do when you get back home that's going to make your little piece of the industry better than it was today?
Thank you, Pete. Okay, as a final note, booth 315, Scott and George have invited you to stop by and do a video, if you want to add anything to the video to enhance today's efforts. It would be greatly appreciated. I also failed to mention, George Menchu, thank you for your contribution in this. It's been a great effort by everybody to pull this together, and as Pete said, we got to keep this going. If we don't, and you young people sitting in the room, take a look, because there's a lot of gray, missing hair around here. We need you young people to step up, because you're the next generation too, and we really got to work it. So on behalf of the committee, ASA and iATN, AES, we'd like to thank you for attending today.